All right, welcome to the first live episode of Rapid Fire Manufacturing. Today I'm with Tony Ganser. Tony, if you don't mind introducing yourself, kind of walk through the background, how you got into, sales and machine tools.
Thank you for visiting and putting this on. I've been in sales for 23 years. Originally got involved with the machinery side of things. Went through an apprenticeship building plastic injection molds. Did that for about 10 years of my life, and then just got frustrated with working 80, 90 hours a week, and it very difficult to get a raise at that time in my life. So I just made the decision I want a profession that if I want to work 80, 90 hours a week, I get compensated for 89 hours a week. And that's what got me into sales and in the machine tool world, just with my background in plastic injection molds.
Awesome. Where did you do the apprenticeship?
I did that at a company in Mishawaka, Indiana. At the time, it used to be Michiana Plastics. It's Michiana Global now. It's been bought out since I've gone through that. But they're still there, still making molds.
Nice. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self getting into sales? Like, are there certain tips or tricks that you would?
A lot of people that want to get into sales have the perception that, if you run around to the customers, you visit them, they're eventually going to call you when they have something that they need or that you can provide them. You get into sales, you find out real quick it don't work that way. So just being patient, being consistent, and reliable to your customers is what I would have told myself 23 years ago.
Now, how do you create high value solutions for your customers?
That's a good question. You really, in our business, what I've found to be successful is you have to be very intimate with your customers. You have to understand what they're making, what their end goals are. And then after listening and understanding that, you can get a better idea how you can apply what it is you bring to the table to help them reach those goals. So it's much more than, hey, I'm Tony, here's 10 machines, which one do you want to buy? I like to get intimate with them because a lot of people want to get to that next level, but they don't know how to do it. And it can come with a big investment, and people are nervous. So you really have to, it's a several year process to get them to that point. You got to plant the seed, understand how their operations work, and then it's constant mentoring to help them get to that point. And then when they do, it's great. It's very.
Yeah. So is this something where when you set up those initial calls, it's like, hey, I don't even want to sell you anything. I want to understand how your business operates, your machinery, whatever the case may be. You kind of get in there first and see everything before you even kind of try to sell anything, right?
Try to, yeah. And the job shops are different than, I'll say, the OEMs, the bigger companies. They kind of have a direction. They know where they're going. We do consult with them and make suggestions. If it's like, well, here's one way to do something, but here's two other ways, which one makes the most sense for you? The smaller companies, it's more difficult because they like to do what they've always done before, and none of us like change. But to be able to reach the goals that each company has, you have to change. And it's a coaching process. It just takes time to get them there. But once they get over that hump and understand this is what we're doing, it's very rewarding to them. It's very rewarding to us.
Now, you mentioned coaching too. Would you recommend that everyone gets a mentor, find someone that could coach them through, the sales process, or just someone to have, rely on?
Yeah, it definitely helps, makes life a lot easier, especially, if you're not from this background or this industry. I would say, our sales team that have worked in a shop, they understand what the equipment can do. So I would say they've got a little bit of an advantage over somebody coming in that, doesn't understand what a lathe or a mill is. And both can be successful. The guy that's not quite familiar with the types of equipment we sell, he's got to work harder to get a better understanding, because this business is all about trust. And if the customers don't trust us and believe in what we're telling them, they're probably not going to buy.
Right.
So, but that's another one of the challenges we face.
Did you have mentors throughout your career too?
When I first started, I did. There was a gentleman, I was 23 years old, got into sales, and basically gave me a phone, gave me a directory and everything with electronics, said, we'll see how you do. Go get them. He saw that I was aggressive, wasn't afraid to work, wasn't afraid, to be out in front of the customers. And, he would spend, for the first couple of years, at least a week, sometimes 2 weeks with me every month. So I learned a lot from him.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of allows you to skip a few steps when
Yeah.
you have people that have seen it
Yeah.
before, right?
Well, and there's every process, I mean, every customer's different. So it's kind of like, how do you respond and how do you navigate through that to getting them the help that they may or may not know they need?
Yeah, absolutely. How have the behaviors of buyers changed over the last decade? Have you seen a significant shift?
Yeah. When I first got into this business, the labor pool was much more concentrated than what it is today. Customers and buyers would buy the less expensive equipment because they could just throw bodies at it to keep things running. And over the course of the last 20 years, it took a little longer for the Midwest to catch up because the East Coast and the West Coast caught on to it very quickly just because of the higher cost of living. So you got to be able to keep those machines running when nobody's there. Well, now we run into this labor problem that we've had for years here in the Midwest. And now the customers are understanding I have to make the larger investment to be successful and for my business to grow. That would be the biggest change I've seen in 20 years, at least in our Midwest market.
And now, what is the best way to ensure that the sale isn't just a one-time transaction, but it's the beginning of a kind of a long-term relationship?
Well, the selling machine and earning the customer's trust to buy your piece of equipment is always step one. Step two, our service team goes in, installs the machines. Sometimes we'll do the training, but all of our customers know who our people are within our company. After our service team gets it installed, we follow up with an application engineer to do training or set up a first part or whatever the case may be. And then typically after, 2-3 weeks after the machine's been installed, he's been trained, they're very comfortable in what we bring to the table as a supplier to them. And all of our customers have the proper contacts depending on what piece of equipment he has if he runs into an issue or needs some additional support. So it's the whole process. I mean, you want to be extremely connected with your customers and be able to help them through anything that they encounter, and by doing that makes you successful. And they tell their friends what you've done for them. So, but that's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as far as the sales process, are there certain objections that pop up a lot, and how do you kind of overcome those?
Yeah, the first one and the easiest one is that I don't have that kind of money. I can't afford that piece of equipment. And some of them don't, but it's, and then you've got customers that, want to do the automation, and there's so many different forms of automation, but when you bring that up to somebody, they're like, well, I don't need a robot. I'm like, well, I'm not referencing a robot in this particular case. I mean, it could be a bar feeder, it could be a gantry fed machine. So when we say automation, there's a broad range of terms that some customers don't quite understand, so they shoot it down instantly when you bring it up. And there's economical automated solutions, and it doesn't have to be a $500,000 $1 million machine all the time. It could be 50 grand, 150 grand, and kind of baby step it to overcome that fear typically of automation isn't for me.
Yeah, and I feel like once they see how much more work they can get done, that's when they're like, okay, let's just make the full investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can run stuff lights out. Yeah, you probably get your return on investment pretty quick.
You make it very quick. Yeah, you make it very quick. And, normally I've yet to have a customer after they've invested in some form of automation. They typically always say, I should have been doing this 10 years ago. Yeah. And I'm glad we're doing it now. Yeah. And it's rewarding.
That's awesome. Now, as far as future sales, what have you, what kind of trends have you seen, or what's your overall view of 2025, 2026?
Well, I'm optimistic. We started out in this year very strong. A lot of that was carryover from the tail end of 2024. I think we're starting to get some momentum. I think everybody was a little bit nervous with what's taking place in our government, and kind of taking the wait and see approach and see what happens. But February's been a little slow, quiet. We're doing a lot of quoting, but people are just nervous. They're not ready to release orders yet. Kind of, again, taking that wait and see approach to see what happens.
Right.
But I'm optimistic for what this year will bring for us, and just don't think we've seen it hit full stride just yet.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Now, if anyone's out there just getting into sales, what would you tell them? And, kind of different from what you tell yourself, like maybe it's tips and tricks or some strategies that they can employ to be successful.
Well, you have to be persistent. You have to be politely persistent. There's some people that are overbearing, and you can turn somebody off real quickly. So you got to understand that balance. you got to be self-motivated. You don't typically, at least for Meredith Machineries, our sales guys are all, working out of their homes. Sometimes they're in the office, but you got to be self-motivated to get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock and hit the road. And you're going to put a 12-hour day in.
Right.
And if you don't, you're just not going to be successful. So you got to have that self-motivation. You've got to have that hunger to always want to learn more about what the equipment can do for our customers. Because a lot of times you get into a customer, sales guy's been calling on them for years, and this is the 15th stop, and the guy just happened to see him. I always tell my guys, you got to have something. You better say something intelligent pretty quickly. Otherwise, you're going to lose his interest and it's going to be very difficult to get back in there. So the knowledge of what you're selling, the self-confidence in yourself, that you also have to believe what you're trying to sell to this customer, because they can see right through. If you don't believe in the product you're trying to sell them, it's very hard for him to get the confidence to make the purchase. So I would say those are the key